Oh, I love that fade. That was almost as good as the jump around fade in episode one. It's paying off. These the Wikipedia articles I'm reading on audio are really helping. Well, this is welcome everyone to Scary Alvarez podcast episode number 2. I'm of course Scary Alvarez, the king of Wisconsin Badger Twitter, a Wine Island enjoyer, Sherry Wine Destroyer, Jake's grandpa, and Cindy's plus one when she'll have me. Um, we've we made it to the finish line of episode 1. Went about 15 minutes over, which was great with the Rucci family, and we're handing the baton over for episode 2. Very excited to welcome the voice of Wisconsin Badger football and basketball, Matt Lepay, to the podcast, which I'm doing right now from 25,000 feet in the air as I fly in my G6 to one of my Caribbean wine islands. So if any of that fades out, just let me know, Matt. But thank you so much for jumping on with us today.
Pleasure, Coach. It's a lot of pressure following the Rucci family. They're awesome people, so I'll try not to screw this up for you today.
I really appreciate it. You're going to do great. And I have to get this before we start. Is Matt Lepay your real name, or is it a stage name?
No, you can't make this up. No, this is me.
Good stuff. Yeah, I might have gone with something like Teddy Honeybush or something in your shoes. But that's fine. I mean, we don't.
Is Scary your real name, or do we have a little alias going on here?
No, it's mine. It's mine. And yeah, Scary Alvarez. It's not a Spanish porn name. It's real. So. So great. So again, thanks for joining us, and we're going to get right going here. You do Badger basketball and you do Badger football. You've been doing them for quite a while. My unpaid interns tell me that you started doing Wisconsin basketball in 1988, and just a few years later, Wisconsin made the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1947. What was your secret for making them good?
Well, it's a lot of hidden talent as a broadcaster, Scary. You know, we have so much to do with it. I was, the first few years I was doing this, I was jealous because Indiana was still really good, and their broadcasters, the guy's become a good friend of mine. He's still going. A guy by the name of Don Fisher, and every March, second week, middle of March, whatever, and I'd pretty much be wrapped up, and Indiana would be in the tournament and making their deep runs and all of that. It was cool though to the first time that they went in with Stu Jackson and in lovely Ogden, Utah in 1994 with Tracy Webster and Michael Finley and Richard and that group. I wish I had something to do with it, but I could tell you I did, but I'd be lying. I don't want to lie too much here tonight. Maybe a little bit, but not on that topic.
Well, I appreciate it. And one or more of us is going to be modest on this podcast. So greater than or equal to one. And
can I tell you that is the all-time photo representing you. I know you / Barry love that photo to this day. Barry / Scary, you, him, you all, they, whatever. Never lose that photo. That's one of the greatest photos in the history of college football coaches.
Well, I appreciate that, Matt, and Cindy helped me download this, and I don't think I could do it myself. So we're going to go with this one for the time being. We're going to get into some of these, but you've had some incredible moments in your broadcasting career. Is this the biggest?
It really is. When you reached out, when your people reached out, I responded. Am I worthy? And when you mentioned the Don insists that I come on. I mean, how do you say no? You'd never. I mean, look, Todd and Stacy, Hayden and Nolan came on. So who am I to turn this down? I've been lucky. I've been a part of some pretty big moments, but this might be at the top. Got to be honest.
It's a big one. Is it fair to say that I made you an offer you can't refuse?
It's very fair to say that. Yeah, I'm, and the check is coming. Right? You have my Venmo.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to get that check right out there right after Wisconsin baseball comes back.
Exactly. And actually, I got to pay you to be on this. That's the offer. That was the offer. So it's on the way. Trust me.
Sure. I like to bounce around a lot, but since the topic, I just brought the topic up of Wisconsin baseball. Do you see any way forward? I know that Title IX and there's some other things that complicate it a little bit. Do you see a path under McIntosh or maybe his successor down the road for getting a Wisconsin baseball team back on the field?
Well, the path would be people stepping up with massive amounts of money. That would help clear a path for that. I don't know if I see that in the foreseeable future, because you mentioned one of the hurdles you have to deal with here. But they're I think coming out of COVID, you're trying to get back on your feet again, and you're trying to make some upgrades to your own facilities right now. So as much as I would love to see it back, as much as that question is asked, I don't think it's going to happen anytime real soon. But I would offer this to the people who really want it back. We all know what talks, Gary, and we know what walks. So you need to go with what talks, and dip into that massive bank account that so many of these baseball supporters have, and let's go. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I've suggested a GoFundMe to several of them, as I said. Possibly there could be other ones. Kickstarter, sitting out on the corner of Breeze Terrace with a cup or something. Who knows? I mean, I don't want to put limits on this, and I think it would be too easy for me to just sell a wine island and make it happen. I want it to feel earned, not some sort of charity thing.
Yeah,
so
Mega Millions. Win Mega Millions. That would help.
Win Mega Millions, absolutely. And people, the sands of time have blurred some people's perception. I actually was not the athletic director when baseball was dropped in 1992. That was my wonderful predecessor, Pat Richter. And not to besmirch his name, but people have sort of conflated that situation, and they make it. This was some Barry Alvarez campaign to get rid of America's pastime off the Wisconsin campus. That was never my thing. And by the time I was athletic director in 2006, it had been gone for so long that I had to focus on other things.
And you're a big baseball fan, as everybody knows. And Pat played the game. Three sports standouts, and gymnastics went right as well. I mean, baseball wasn't the only sport that was taken down. But yeah, you're right. And you love getting that question every time you're out talking to the people. Chris, I'm sure the same, just loves it. It's the over under. When's it going to come? The first 5 minutes, usually, any kind of a public speaking thing. But look, I kind of like the game myself. I'd like to see it come back. I'm just not holding my breath. I might be hitting you up for a little visit to one of your wine islands in retirement, when that comes back.
Matt, absolutely. And you and your wife had an anniversary recently. I wish you would have reached out to me before this, where I could have told you no then. But I'm just kidding. Of course, you can visit one of my wine islands during the rainy season. But
appreciate it.
By the way, let's not lose the point. Losing gymnastics, men's gymnastics, was an equally big blow for me. So maybe one day we can get those parallel bars and those rings back in red gym like they used to be. But I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it. So got to cover a few things here, and we don't want to go 3 hours like we do with the Ruchis, even though that was super fun. But I could tell they had places to go. When I was named coach back in 1990, how excited were you? That had to be like emerging from mortar.
Well, I say, you have the perfect photo right here, but you also had the perfect line. You better get your season tickets now, because before long you probably won't be able to. When you said that, I thought, God, is this guy cocky? Does he know what he's walking into here? It's been kind of a struggle bus over here. But yeah, the excitement level, scary. Here's what being around like we have, and we're excited for the coming season and Luke Fickell and that staff. But some of these young bucks are acting like there's never been this level of excitement before. And I tell them that the bar was set by you guys when you got here in 1990. How the practices changed, the tempo of practices, and all that. That's the bar by which all others are put up against. So I hope you're not too insulted by the excitement that's going on around this team this season.
No, I appreciate it, because it all. I mean, my the young buck I hired as athletic director is largely responsible for a lot of this. So you can always draw the line back to the dawn. I mean, it's not. I'm not suggesting I'm Corleone with strings attached to everything. Still, I'm just saying that this is going according to the plan. Maybe not so much according to the plan in some of 2022's football season, but those were a couple humps, and now we find ourselves in an exciting new direction. We can get into Luke Fickell in a moment here. It sounded weird, but we're gonna start talking about Badger football. But yeah, I mean, the whole situation when I came in and that press conference, and people think, is that something I had on a note card when I said that you better get the tickets? I had a quick shot of sherry, and I was like looking out at all these people, and they were looking at me and going, "Who is this guy?" And it's just something I said, and I remember coming off going, "Ooh, that sounded really cool." Like I would think I was pretty cool if I was out there, and I knew when I was cool. So I knew then, since I thought it was cool, I knew everyone else did, and I wasn't going to go back and be like, "Okay, guys, just kidding. I didn't mean that." Of course, I meant it. And
Yeah, how cool, yeah, but how cool did you feel when that team lost by like whatever it was, 21 at Northwestern? That wasn't very cool, was it? Were you regretting ever at any time? Did you regret making that statement?
yeah, so my first 1990. Yeah, that was Don Morton's last year on the record. So Don Morton gets that 1-10.
Gotcha.
I started at 5-6. As I said recently, I mean, I didn't come in and recruit 230-pound offensive linemen. I didn't recruit receivers who ran 5.2 40s. I mean, but we have to. I was going around the intramural fields in Madison my first year, trying to find some hot shots that could come in. But I knew with that first recruiting class where Brett Moss, rest in peace, and some of these other kids, Verstegen and Panos, I knew, and Fowler, in time. I needed a little bit of time. It wasn't going to be 1990, probably not 91 either, but I knew by 92 we would be playing at a different tempo. We'd have a different swagger about us. Uh, you know, the hard work and commitment and dedication that would be ingrained in these kids by then. And it happened according to plan. Like I said, the Rose Bowl and number 6 ranking happened 1 year later than I thought it would. So were you surprised you went to Rose Bowl in 1993? Yes, I was. I thought it was going to be in 1992.
You set the bar high. You shocked all of us when you got there in '93. So standing ovation to you. I forever have this, by the way. I think we misspelled it though. We had Scary instead of Barry. We should.
No, I go by Barry too. It's fine.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We had a great time doing these things.
It's awesome.
Yeah. No, that was '93 was magic, man. I mean, to be able to do what that team did and be there in Pasadena. You mentioned those guys, Mike Thompson, sitting on the quarterback in the last play of the game as time was running out. And it was, Scott Nelson proposing, they've been happily married for going on 30 years. And they proposed on the field post game. I mean, you can't make that up. That's all you. I'm sorry it happened a year too late. But I mean, for the rest of us, it happened probably 3 or 4 years earlier than we thought.
It's totally fine. Yeah, I don't mean too late. And yeah, that was. And I'm looking over and Scott Nelson's proposing. I'm like, Scotty, you're 21, buddy. It's fine. I didn't. I mean,
wait a minute. Hang on.
Yeah. Like, things are going to be pretty fun on campus here this next year. Just want to see how that goes. But I'm not trying to say I'm breaking up his marriage. I hope it's been I haven't talked to Scott in a while, but I hope it's been a good long marriage like mine and Cindy's. But so we talked a little bit about, it was a teaser, they call it in the industry, but we talked about Luke Fickell being the new Wisconsin football coach. And since you've been around the program for a long time, are you excited to see if Luke Fickell can become the second best Wisconsin football coach of all time?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think the smart thing, one of the many smart things he's done is strike up a relationship with you, right? I mean, he's picked your brain about, how things work at Wisconsin. And so that tells me that he's a really smart dude. He's from the same area of the country as I am too. So I might be a little biased there, but yeah, I am. I want to see what they can do. I think he talked earlier this summer about this recruiting footprint and the radius being a little bit maybe further out than what he originally thought it needed to be. He says the power of the W maybe means a little bit more than what he thought. largely because of you, obviously, Scary.
Of course.
But, he seems to be a very quick study as to what works here at Wisconsin and the way they do things, and yet he's got his way. And I think they've obviously recruited well through the portal, and it seems like they were if you trust the all the star system, all the 4 stars that they have. I think it's going to be. And the other thing too, though, as the other his predecessor who you hired, he did win a lot. It's like 72% of his games. So it's not like Luke Fickell is walking into a dumpster fire the way you might have in 1990. So I think the floor is a little bit different than what it was in 1990. It's not a train wreck here. So I think they've got a chance to be pretty good relatively soon.
Well, that's great. And yeah, no disrespect to Coach Christ. I as said to a few people, wouldn't that be interesting if Christ could take over Northwestern, and then Gary Anderson could come in and take over? Who's I don't know who the worst program of the Big Ten is besides that, but maybe Rutgers down the road or something, and we could have a real it could be one of the divisions of the new Big could be Badger and ex-Badger coaches. And I would take my chances with that division for sure. But that's great. And so no. Sometimes it's just for whatever reason things don't work out the way you had planned them to. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big fan of Paul as a person as well. And I want nothing but the best for him in the future. And I hope whatever choice it is, whether he goes back into coaching or whether he ends up just, playing weekend softball full time. Either way, I'm going to be happy for Paul, and I'm always free to be a reference.
He's an awesome dude, as is Jim Leonard, great coaches. So yes, I'm right there with you.
Appreciate it.
All the best.
What the Ruchis and some other kids I've talked to in the program now have described the difference, and this wasn't meant to be a negative, but it's just explaining the difference between 2022 Wisconsin and how things have been since Fickell took over. And one of the things that I keep hearing over and over again is it's fast. Everything is faster, speedier. I don't know, harder hitting, but just I have this thing where you take a tape that's at normal speed and it goes up to 1.5 or something. Is that what you've been observing?
Yeah, they all tell you that, and they'll tell you that these off-season workouts haven't been a whole lot of fun, but they've tried to make it fun, and they've let us in a little bit. As you know, the power of social media. Well, I think Luke Fickell understands it too. He surrounds himself with people who know how to put things together, and every team works hard in the summertime. I don't think anybody has the market cornered on it, but their approach appears to be a little bit different with how they lift and the conditioning, and everything is competition. But they let the fan in a little bit with these social media clips. They had the Squatfest. Are you challenging Braylon Allen, by the way? Did I see that a while ago?
Yeah, that's true. I did challenge Braylon. A great kid, and certainly strong. One of the things you may have, he's strong. One of the things, you could name his quads, they could have their own name. But that's a compliment. Like my biceps. But one thing they cut out, the social media team, I'm not sure who did this. I'm going to work on this. But when during Squatfest a couple of weeks back, I went in there first because I like to lead off, and I squatted 900 pounds. And wow. It's the weirdest thing. And I had a Barry Alvarez mask on. That's right. You heard me.
Is that a PR, as they like to say, personal record? Would that be a PR for you?
No, it wasn't. I've done 1050, but that day, I'd had a couple of sherries the night before, and it's fine, and a leg of lamb. But I was on a Greek wine island 36 hours before, and I was in Ibiza as well. That's a long story. Rest in peace, Avicii. But yeah, I did it, and they cut it out. I'm not sure whether that's because I wasn't trying to show anyone up. It's just what I do. But I think the kids are doing great. A lot of strong kids. I love the stuff. I think some people like it, some people don't like it, but making it be fun and making there be new things and new challenges and new ways to do it. I think that's okay to breathe a little bit of life into something that's been similar, even if it was great to begin with.
Yeah, no, I think you almost need to do that now. Maybe not take out the word almost. You need to do that now. And it's, for the fans, it's great, but they're giving, high school kids, here's a glimpse. Here's a little glimpse of what they do at Wisconsin and, the energy with which they do it and all of that. So, yeah, I just think in today's world, think about how different it is from, when you were running things. I mean, we had no idea about social media and that type of thing. But I think right now people can love it, hate it, but I think it's necessary. So I applaud them for doing that. And look, when they play Buffalo on September 2nd, how many people are going to be looking back at Squatfest videos? Probably not much, but in the summertime, it gets people talking. So what's wrong with that?
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I'm curious, you've called a lot of games, obviously, and you don't have to pick the favorite one. But give me one of the most memorable games that you have called. It can be either basketball or football. That if you're having a tough time getting to sleep or something, you want to think good thoughts, or you're going through a rough time. That's the one you think of and go, "Damn, that was fun."
Ooh, yeah, one's hard. The game that to me is the most entertaining, and I've told people this fairly often, was the 2011 Big Ten championship game. With Nebraska, not Nebraska. That was entertaining too.
We knew it. We definitely knew it wasn't Nebraska.
It was a little bit of a boat race there. No, the Wisconsin-Michigan State game, back and forth, Wilson to Duckworth, the big fourth down play, and Brad Norton just getting obliterated, sort of kind of, with the running into the kicker, which secured the win, and then. Going back to the Rose Bowl, getting a little revenge off of that, ridiculous pass that Michigan State had in East Lansing earlier in the season. But that's the one. I mean, it was just, if you put that game on again, just the athletes out there, the talent level on both sides, and the back and forth nature of the game was pretty awesome. The other one, but I didn't call the Rose Bowl, your first Rose Bowl. I was there. I was down on the field at the end of the game. But the one when Wendell Bryant had the sack to seal the game against UCLA, and Craig James fired you up, going into that game saying Wisconsin was going to be the worst team ever to play in the Rose Bowl, and you had that great line, "We must be the second worst team." That's it. That was pretty memorable. But man, the Dane game, Melvin Gordon 408. David Gilreath, the kick return against Ohio State in 2010. I mean, all those come to mind. But I just think the most competitive back and forth was the 2011 Big Ten championship game.
That was a great one, and I will say, thanks for that, Matt. That's a lot of good memories there. The call on the Wilson to Duckworth fourth down pass, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, because that game was over if that pass is not completed. And the fact that it went to a kid who was always a hard worker, but was not one of the primary weapons on that team, I just thought that was great. And the call was just so iconic. And Wilson goes across the field. Oh, you probably remember, how that went. And it just what a great feeling. And then second to that was Nortman after he knew the flag had been thrown. When the guy hit his leg that he held up higher than a ballet dancer.
Yeah, he blew him up. I mean, he just crushed him. I
was so concerned that he was hurt, and he's padding his chest because he knows that he has won the game. And I know that's not, old school football, but you just gotta tip your hat to that, because the moxie that kid showed, because it was by the letter of the law penalty, and if you do not throw that flag, you're doing not only as bad as you would do by throwing it, you're doing worse by not throwing it. So don't run into the kicker if you don't want the penalty, buddy.
Yeah,
that's what I say.
And obviously, Brad Nortman was Pat McAfee before Pat McAfee. It was great acting, great. Well, actually, it was a penalty. He hit him, but you got to sell it a little bit. Of course, he also had the fake punt the previous year against Iowa, which is, if you were to ask him, that was a big tell. He ran like 25, 30 yards, something like that. So that, punters are people too. You know, I know
Yeah.
I know your thing with kickers is a little shaky at times, but you appreciate a good specialist. I know.
No, absolutely, great punter, and that was that Iowa 31-30 win was another great win. Introduced us to Monty Ball, and that was another fun one.
Mhm.
Here's a quiz. I'm gonna do a few of these fun little quizzes I like to do because we like we're gentlemen of we're not quite as young as we used to be, so it's good to have some mental exercises to keep our brains fresh. I got 50 or 60 years left, so I got to keep my brain nimble. Um, PJ Fleck, Fran McCaffrey, and Jim Harbaugh. You can only save two of these coaches from a desert island. Why do you leave PJ Fleck behind?
Well, he's in the boat, so he's. I don't have to worry about him. He's in the
No,
boat.
there's no boat, Matt.
He'll find one. You know, he's got an oar. He'll get to the boat, so I don't have to. He can take care of himself. Fran McCaffrey is the gift that keeps on giving. You know, is the Frantrums. We love that. And somebody told me that Jim Harbaugh is the kind of guy who would go like this time of year would go to a baseball game to this day and bring a glove. I'm guessing you wouldn't do that, but
I probably wouldn't get to the baseball game, but Harbaugh, not only would he bring a glove, if the 9-year-old in front of him caught the foul ball, Harbaugh would get that ball. I'm just telling you. Yeah, it's a new kind of recruiting. It'll be a life lesson for the young lad. You got to hold on. You got to hold on to the ball.
Absolutely. Or he'd go to their house and sit in the tree and wait for him to verbally commit. You know, which I think he's done that before.
Yeah, and if you have no context, wow, that sounds creepy. Like I don't see Luke Fickell doing that. Luke Fickell's not having any sleepovers. It's just not going to happen. I mean, whether it's from the Boy Scout perspective, or whatever Harbaugh's mind is, I know he's an old school guy, and it's all about camaraderie, and I understand that. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. I can't figure this guy out. But Fickell's not. We're not having a sleepover.
Probably not.
What? Okay, I got a couple other ones here. Ohio State, Iowa, and Minnesota. Which win is going to feel the best for Wisconsin this year, Iowa or Minnesota?
Ohio State. I'm going to go off script. I mean,
that was a trick question.
It's been a minute since these guys have beaten Ohio State. Actually, the real answer is yes. You know, they owe all of them, including your guy Fleck, who's had a little 2-game winning streak against the Fighting Badgers. So the answer would be yes. But I think if you are looking for fan reaction, you've been a part of some you always love the big home game, right? So the Ohio State, that's a fairly big home game. And they got Iowa at home too, I get it. But Ohio State, is that Halloween weekend? Right around that time?
It's close. And let me tell you this, jokes aside, I'm going to go right here. It's the 23rd of July. I'm guaranteeing a Wisconsin win over Ohio State this year. I'm going to say it right here, right now. We're going to politely and orderly let those kids, leave the student section out of the field. There's not going to be any sort of barrier there, and we're going to come and they're going to celebrate with their heroes, and it's going to be a good old time. And I'm going to put some free drinks on McIntosh's Visa at Wando's later that night. I hope it's a night game. I really hope it's a night game. I don't want this big noon kickoff crap at 11 a.m. There's like seven students in the student section. We need to really ramp that up, and it's going to be a big win.
That's a very bold statement by you, Scott. You always kind of hated it when one of your players did that. You're going a little Jamar Fletcher here, and you know what you said when he made that little guarantee, I think, against Plexico Burris back in 1999, something about your mouth is writing a check. Your fanny can't cash, but he did. So sometimes your voice gets up a little bit.
A little bit.
That's a little bit out of character for you. So I'm not saying I do respect it. I'm glad I'm sitting down because that's not like you to guarantee a win.
I appreciate that. I guarantee them in my own inside voice. I'm 3 sherries into this one, Matt. Just work with me here, buddy. We got this. On a scale of 9.5 to 10, how good a football coach was I?
10 plus.
Okay, that was an easy one.
Yeah, come on, man.
Okay, we're Yeah, and did I stop you from saying nice things about me? Let me yield the floor back to Matt Lepay. Please continue.
Right here, Barry Alvarez Field. Well, the sun setting is kind of screwing this up.
We're getting some feedback on that, like PJ Fleck is shining us the flashlight.
Can you see that? Probably not. Oh well, a picture framed, so
it's beautiful.
You can't see it. Trust me, I'll paint the picture like I'm on the radio. This is everybody around Barry Alvarez Field.
I'm going to send you over. I'm going to send you over a 30 by 20 glossy framed in gold.
Awesome.
Of the same picture. By the way, when I talked to Dana Redke about 18 months ago, we had a podcast that 3 people listened to for Bucky's Fifth Quarter. It's crazy, and she wasn't one of them. Boy, but she was shocked. You know, like one of those games where you go in, you think you're going to beat a team by 4 touchdowns, and it goes to the wire. She could not process the questions that I was asking her. So that was going to be like a Sports Illustrated or that. But it was really we actually had a lot of fun, and I made her promise me that when she gets a statue on the Wisconsin campus someday, it's going to be slightly shorter than mine. That's
the respect she has for you, right? Okay.
Well, that's what I demanded. She didn't offer it, but she left that interview accepting it. I have plenty of ties in the Italian pro volleyball leagues. I can make this hard on her. So we're gonna. She has seeded.
Never crossed the dawn. Never crossed the dawn.
Never cross it off. We're going to wrap up here pretty soon. I take a lot of your time here on Sunday night, but this is going to be a word association game. The Rucci's didn't get spared this, and neither are you. So what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the following things? The Paul Bunyan axe.
It needs to be back here.
In your house? Or Madison?
Probably in the Wisconsin locker room or somewhere in the Wisconsin football facility. Yeah,
that makes sense. Pat Fitzgerald.
Ooh, that's
you're not touching that. The Rucci's didn't touch that one either.
You're getting into a little dangerous ground there.
I don't want to hazy here, man.
Yeah, I want to just kind of tap dance around that. That's
okay. Fair enough. Tap dance like you're a Northwestern recruit in the shower.
Yep.
Let's see. Greg Gard.
Hell of a coach, great guy. 2 Big Ten championships. Wisconsin guy. Lucky to have him here.
Agreed. I'm a big Gard fan. I'd remind a lot of people on Twitter he's won 2 of the last 3 Big Ten championships. Sometimes they forget that. Joe Ferguson.
One of the all-time greats, without a doubt.
No, I'm seriously asking you who that is. I have no idea who that is.
Former quarterback, Buffalo Bills. Oh, you know Joe, 99-yard interception return in a game.
I'm going to need a little more.
Say again?
I'm going to need a little more.
He's
Any more hints?
One of the great defensive backs in the history of Wisconsin football. No doubt about it.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. And finally, Wisconsin hockey.
Ready to get back where it belongs. I think I'm going to be serious for a moment. I think the world of Tony Granada. It was unfortunate. I mean, in the COVID year, they were really, really good with Cole Caulfield. But we all know it's been a struggle the last couple of years. But he's a great dude, and I know he is going to be rooting for these guys. I think Mike Hastings has a chance to be a hell of a hire for this program. So yeah, it's time to get Wisconsin hockey back where it belongs.
I was super excited about Hastings. I think it's an incredible hire, another incredible hire by Mac. And I echo what you're saying about Granado. No one, except maybe Tony himself, was more surprised how that went. When he was hired, I think I went on Twitter maybe a few hours later and said, this is a home run hire. And that's such a cliche, but I meant it with every fiber of my being. I was expecting Wisconsin to be in the national title conversation almost immediately. I know there was a little bit of a rebuild still after Eves, but it's completely puzzling and perplexing, and it wasn't a recruiting thing. It's not a coaching ability thing because Tony has proven at all levels that he's a good coach. It was one of those star-crossed things they'll never figure out. But Hastings is gonna get us there. And as I like to remind Minnesota fans, put us even further ahead of Minnesota in hockey national titles. We're currently 1 ahead of them, but I like to bump that up to 2 or 3 soon.
I'm right there with you. And they're right there with, speaking of national titles, about Mark Johnson. They just won their seventh, the women's program at Wisconsin. So
It's
shout out to Mark
unbelievable. And
Johnson.
yeah, this wasn't Mark Johnson erasure. I mean, Mark, not only a Hall of Fame type college player for Wisconsin and a gold medalist in 1980, just about the greatest guy you could find, and just the kind of person you want helming one of your most important sports programs. And I just it's almost become cliche that the Wisconsin women's hockey program is elite, and they do it again. And I almost feel like it might get that way for volleyball at some point too. We need to every season appreciate just the level of excellence that these programs are finding. It's quite amazing. And Johnson is, it's hard to compare men's and women's programs, but he's certainly put himself in the conversation for one of the finest collegiate coaches of any gender in NCAA history of any sport. I mean, that's how dominant he is. It's it's all time great kind of stuff, and we are so lucky to have him.
Yeah, no, well, very well said. Very well said, Scary. I agree with you.
I appreciate it. Okay, a couple more questions here. We'll let you go here. Do you think it's going to feel disorienting for you this year? Never seeing Wisconsin take 8 minutes off the game clock and kick a field goal.
How disorienting would it be if they actually did that? If they come out the first drive and it's nothing but run, 15 plays, 80 yards, 10 minutes. This is going to be different. I'm going to have to be ready. No huddle, up tempo, throw the ball around a little bit, and hopefully more room to run for Braylon and Ches Malusi. This is spring ball was interesting to watch. It's going to be no fullback. How do you feel about that, by the way? No fullback?
Well, I mean, some of this is dragging me away, kicking and screaming. I'm a big tight end guy, a big fullback guy. Hopefully 5.6 yards in a cloud of dust. Moss Fletcher, Montgomery. But I think the way the last couple of years have played out, a change was needed. And I feel very confident, as I mentioned earlier, that Luke Fickell is the person to take Wisconsin into the future. And all I say is there's a very high bar right now. Have a little grace and a little patience, because these kids haven't practiced together that much yet. And while I think it's going to be a very successful season, there's going to be a couple of little hiccups here and there, and just be ready for that. But I am incredibly excited about this new version of Wisconsin football. And it's going to be people try to, ones who don't know, think it's going to be pass all over the place. We're going to have 1,000, if not a 1,500-yard rusher this season in Braylon Allen, and Malusi's going to have a good season too. I know it's air raid, but that ball is going to be on the ground. It's going to be in the air. It's going to be everywhere. And I think this offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing that people, I hope, I know a lot of people do understand, but for those who are not aware, Phil Longo, the coordinator, he's had seasons with a couple 1,000-yard rushers. He's had mobile quarterbacks. He's had pocket passers. He's had, the book on him is that he does a great job of finding the skill set of an individual player or an offense in general and making it work. He's not trying to force feed something necessarily. I mean, I would imagine you'll see him throw it around a little bit more. They've got pretty good depth in their wide receivers room. I think that's a really nice looking groups, but yeah, I think that's fair. There could be some games where it might look a little clunky from time to time, but I too am very excited about the future for this program.
Incredibly excited. And how many times have we had a situation where the third team receiver, or maybe even a fourth team receiver, could have, in some seasons with Wisconsin, could have been the number one receiver on the team? I mean, that is how much. I'm not saying there are 6 Biletnikoff Award winners in that room. I'm saying there are a number of guys with differing skill sets who can be given in a given game or a given drive a WR1. That's the kind of talent we have in there. It was from CJ Williams to DK. I mean, the guys from last year, we had three plus good receivers. Some of the young guys who were redshirt freshmen last year. I'm incredibly excited to see that speed on the field to make things a little bit easier on the offensive line, a little bit easier on the backs, and certainly am excited to see what the new kid can do at quarterback. I think he'll put that spring game behind him. I think that was a little bit of a hiccup that was sort of weird, but he's by all accounts he got a fantastic arm and a good head and shoulders. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I agree. No, he's made it very clear that he was actually thinking about going in the draft, and the feedback he was getting, they want to see him. It was great what he did at SMU, but the pro scouts want to see it in the Big Ten. Against maybe better competition week in and week out. So I think he took that to heart. Braden Locke, I think, has a lot of talent. Nick Evers has a really strong arm. Miles Burkett. I mean, I don't know if I've seen this much depth at quarterback, raw talent, than what I see right now. I mean, there have been better quarterbacks than people give credit for here. Obviously you had a number of them with Mike Samuel and Brooks and Sorgi and Stocco. Those guys were good. But I think the depth of it right now, the raw talent, makes this potentially pretty special.
Completely agree. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Okay, well, final question tonight before we let you go. Who is the best tight end in Wisconsin school history?
It's funny you ask, because I was about ready to say, how can we be 40 minutes into this and you are not talking about the great Jake Ferguson? If I would have said Mike Rohn, how would you have reacted?
I like Mike Rohn, and Mike Rohn was a Rose Bowl champion,
Yes,
like a pre-grandson to me in many ways. The way he went about his business was exactly what I was looking for. He's one of the greats. But I think you have correctly seized upon the only softball I've given you tonight, and that's going to be Jake Ferguson, Dallas Cowboys superstar to be Jake Ferguson. And we're going to get him on. I've been trying to get Jake on with me on one of these, and we're going to get him on. Maybe we'll get him on a bye week this year. But as I predicted with the last podcast, Jake he's going to be approaching double-digit touchdowns this year, and he is going to be the second leading receiver in yardage for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm that confident about it. I think it's going to be.
Are you predicting at some point he will be in the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor?
No, because I want him to get traded to the Packers. But that's on the right after the rookie. Yeah, I mean, a grandpa can dream, right? Get him in that tight end, and the Packers tight end room's looking pretty good right now. So it's going to be a three-headed monster when his contract expires in a couple of years. But anyway, well, Matt, I feel I have to say this. This has been an incredible, life-affirming pleasure for you to be here today.
It really has.
And I really enjoyed. It's been a while since we sat down together, but thank you so much. Cindy's calling me for meatloaf. I gotta have my meatloaf, and I would shake your hand right now, but my hands are glued together. It's awkward. We had a little problem with that in the last one, but you have an absolutely great evening, and on Wisconsin, and let's do this again sometime.
I appreciate you giving me nearly 45 minutes of your time. It's always an honor. Let's do this again, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Absolutely. And 45 minutes of my time, just so you know, is like 6 weeks of a normal person's time. So that's how much I like you. Check this out. I'm going to try and fade this out with a cool song. Ready?
I'm ready.
Are we going to do this?
Oh, here we go. I think I've heard this before. There you go.
Well, it's fine. That's what happens when you try to do it on a BlackBerry. Anyway, I'll dub something in later. Have a good one, my man.
Take care.
Stay on. We're going to talk after.